In 2002, Arab-American brothers Michael and T.H. Culhane began a series of U.S. State Department-sponsored tours of the Middle East. Initially aimed at building cultural bridges between Arabs and Americans, these tours have evolved and the mission has expanded.
All of this is so far beyond words, but it's a definite feeling that this is where I'm supposed to be. I don't even know about destiny. None of this was planned, but chance favors the prepared mind. I've been preparing myself for my whole life, to be in the rock and roll band of my dreams on the road. The fact that it's the opposite of what I expected, literally not the United States, but the other side of the world, that's just, a delicious irony that makes it seem more like destiny, because my parents were always like, you will connect with your past. But I never really listened to that as a kid. I was always like, never mind, past or future, it's just about the present,
I think these tours can really become a good vehicle for just a few subtle messages, letting people know that we're concerned. Because as an artist, if you see this stuff, how could you not?
T.H. was the pioneer of playing rock and roll in the Middle East because he's been doing it for some 20 years as a student.
Circus Guy's first State Department tour took place in Syria in 2002. After a very successful string of shows, they were invited back in 2003. They performed in Syria, Jordan, Arab East Jerusalem, Cyprus, Kuwait, and Bethlehem.
Then we had a separate visit to the Gulf in 04, January, which was Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman. Love You Ruin a CD hit the charts in Kuwait's Virgin Megastore.
This year I was in Muscat, Oman, doing consulting for the education ministry, and I said something about my sons are Michael and T.H. of Circus Guy, and he said, oh, I've never heard them, but I've heard of them. They've done more for diplomacy than anyone else we have spent the money on to send around.
If everybody worked together, there would be enough. If you want to have more, it falls apart. It seemed to me, from the beginning, that sharing was the answer.
It became clear that we could achieve something together that was a little more than just a show, and a little more than just a workshop, or a little more than just a cultural outreach. It had something special about our chemistry. Then people would react to that and give us a little more of a challenge, and we'd rise to that.
We're building bridges musically and culturally, and we wanted to do it scientifically as well. This is the tour where we're going to do the solar emphasis.
Guitars. I said, two is okay. How many were in the troupe? I said, I didn't know how many were standing there. He said, if 10, it's not good. I said, I don't think it's 10.
T-Mobile claims that this means that I can send text messages. That's cool. From Egypt. We'll see if it works. Do I have time to go buy some deodorant? Have time with me?
This is maybe the second or third tour where I'm meeting a musician that's going to have a big impact on my life for the first time on an airplane.
This is really a great opportunity for me to finally get involved in something having to do with solar energy for useful earthbound purposes. Doing solar power for space is really fascinating. I got solar panels running around on Mars and going to comets and stuff like that. I'd never really gotten to do what I really originally wanted to do with solar power, which was to help free ourselves of dependency on fossil fuels and Arab oil and get more involved with figuring out how to make life a little bit more sustainable on Earth for everybody.
Good morning, Starshine.
Ring 1 of Circus Guy's environmental circus took place in Egypt in December of 2004. We arrived very late at night and were brought to a farm on the desert road north of Cairo.
This was one of the great joys of this particular tour, was to see where my brother lives and why he lives there, and we understood, all of us, right away when we were, we became part of a family. On other tours it's been fabulous, but you go to a hotel and you're just like on any business trip or a musician on tour.
After a day and a half of travel, we were glad to be so warmly welcomed by the Frege family.
Every week, Frank brings beer to rehearsal and puts it down, and I take it. Whatever they say is they mean. This is the most. They're my family. Began my musical career here playing in an old club called Nadi El Buko, which was in Pizza Bafo on Sharia Taha Hussein in Zamalek in 1982. And so I cut my teeth as a youth playing music here.
Before the tour, one of the things I stayed up late at night for about 2 weeks before the tour, making my own model solar concentrator with parts that I bought from Radio Shack and so forth.
The sun sees a bigger solar cell than the solar cell space.
That's tricky. Fooling the
I patented a solar concentrator for space, and that's one of the technologies that you can use to decrease the cost of solar energy, because solar cells are relatively expensive.
So basically, you stay with
Folk artist Aeneas Mitchell had previously studied in Cairo and had a few questions about the tour.
We happened to be sitting across the aisle from one another. We both had guitars, little gig bags with guitars, and that was kind of funny, and so we started talking. And TH said that he worked for the State Department playing music in the Middle East, and I was like, that's totally whack. I can't believe it.
She was offended.
Well, sure. I mean, I was raised with a lot of knee-jerk suspicion about this sort of a thing. I thought it was a...
You mean the government?
Yeah, the government. I don't know. I thought at first it was like a hearts and minds, kind of a, what do you call it? Cultural hegemony kind of a thing. Right. Well, that's what I eventually came to think. I was like, wait a minute, cultural hegemony is corporate. Like, the State Department is not even going to make a dent.
That's right. They're just filling in the cracks.
Right.
I said, Aeneas, the government didn't send us to do this job. We twisted the government's arm and squeezed a few pennies out of this bloated budget that goes for nothing productive.
There you go.
In fact, we're exploiting the government. We're exploiting the American people for good.
And so are the government workers. Some of whom are as wonderful and creative as the rest of us, and joined foreign service in particular in the first place because they wanted to be of service to our country in foreign places.
We took Mark Shapiro to dinner, and it turned out that this State Department guy knew all the dialogue from Casablanca, as I do. Blowing up the World Trade Center gets the human race nowhere. Playing rock and roll music in all the capitals of the Middle East gets you everywhere.
The State Department, rightly so, told us, we need to find new ways of connecting with Arab and Muslim audiences. Specifically, the 60 or 65% of the population in Syria that was under the age of 25.
It's very interesting to me. You have different groups, different people playing the drum, which attests to that the group can handle diversity. They can handle differences, because sometimes you take different drummers, different basses, which actually is a compliment to the group, that you could work with variety of people, but you have the same mission in mind.
Middle East Body Environmental Science Center under the visionary leadership of Lynn Frege and the wonderful support of her husband, Tony Frege. Give a big hand for Lynn and Tony. And the whole Wadi Holdings Corporation. They've done a wonderful job bringing to Egypt the future. Right here, building this wonderful stage designed by Risa Kato, and there she is right there. In the beautiful school, they have brought to Egypt the future of clean, safe, and forward-thinking technologies that will transform Egypt into the most glorious civilization on the planet Earth. I know, we've been there before, so it's nothing new, but we're going to do it again, right in the Nile Valley, right here at Wadi.
I'm a full-time musician, singer, songwriter. Aeneas Mitchell is a full-time folk singer.
What's that, James?
And Frank Marino on the drums. He's a full-time drummer and music teacher.
I'll give you a drum roll.
Greg Ross on bass, who I formed the band with in New York. He's a physicist doing cancer research at Columbia University. TH is a science educator. How do you say reflect? Boom. Sounds like it. And we have Ted Stern on violin. So we have 3 full-time musicians, 3 scientist musicians, and then we have a filmmaker musician who also does the artwork, James, and then we have our cousin Andrew, who is a student and musician. So it's balanced, this way. But yes, it does inform our music. TH does songs like The Future we'll be playing tonight. That's The Future is Now. The Future is Now, his own special way of educating through the song.
We've got the power, tremendous power, plenty of power, clean and green power. There'll never be a crisis here again. Check it out. I want to clean.
One of the band's first gigs was a radio interview on Cairo-based radio station Nile FM. Snippets of it and Circus Guy music ran throughout the week.
Today's at Music 104.2. This is Nile FM. This is Lou here, and I'm here with Michael Culhane, Taha Culhane, and Aeneas, and they are the members of Circus Guy. Now, Circus Guy is a rock band that is currently in Egypt on tour. Welcome to Egypt, guys, and welcome to Nile FM.
Thanks, I can get them. Nice. I live here now, so trying to talk in Arabic.
Okay, well, since you brought that up, so you guys are of Arab origin, right?
Arab American.
Yeah, Arab American.
These two.
Yeah.
I'm straight up.
The tension was there, I have felt, is that I think one of them wanted to be more, I represent the Arab world and the Middle East, and the other one, I represent the United States, and I'm going to stick up for the United States, which I think is a healthy tension, but yet they both represent those two worlds.
Mike, how do you pronounce your last name? Cullen?
Culhane.
Culhane. Ooh, all right.
We hail from Illinois, where our mother came from Iraq, and our grandmother was Lebanese, so got a nice mixture with the Irish.
Yeah, the Culhane's an Irish name, actually.
I think the whole history of the world is the history, if you will, of brothers and sisters overcoming the differences between them.
For us, it's a 3-ring circus. In America, everything's bigger. Instead of 1 ring, like in Europe, it's 3 rings. So we do in 1 ring, rock and roll review, featuring the lovely Luna CD, our original material that I wrote. And from Elvis to the Eagles, just an overview of classic rock and roll. In ring 2, my brother's science education songs. Solar power, futuristic thinking. In ring 3, the Arab American dialogue that we're trying to have with our own heritage and with the people of the Arab world and the musicians we bring from the United States.
We're Circus Guy. That is better than anything. And so in that act is politics and is science and is environment and is justice and poverty alleviation and rock and roll and fun and brotherhood.
And I realized that music was a great vehicle of ambassadorship, that it would break down all of these barriers, create a bond of trust, and then we could work on the vital issues of where do people get their food, how do we clean water, how do we make sure that there's no disease, how do we do development in a good way.
I just got called by a newspaper reporter who covers the science section. He's the science editor for Al Ahram, and they're going to do an article on the future is now and the melodic mnemonics thing that we do on this tour, this blend of science and entertainment, this edutainment.
And give everybody an experience to learn in a fun and engaging way. Thank you for joining us on that. That's a moving experience for me.
TH worked hard with the staff of the center to get the solar stage ready for Circus Guy. They performed at night and then the next day, using the stage and its solar power supply.
Put the up to the down, put the drawings on the fridge, put the scary wolf out, leave a place for the pigs.
The whole idea of having a solar powered stage at the Wadi Center, which is not only an environmental center, but also an educational center for children of all kinds, not privileged children in particular, but they had low-income children there. One of the groups that came by while we were there was a group of mentally handicapped children. I don't know if you knew that.
Very good, actually. It's a good effect. It's why we have a lot of heat on the planet. It's why we're not like Mars. It's really cold.
When one cell can see a sun, this cell sees 5 suns. It's very bright on the solar cell. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you do that, you can get five times as much power out of every solar cell. I can take the price of electricity from solar energy and I can reduce it by using a very inexpensively made mirror. Solar cells are expensive, but aluminum is cheap.
A magnet can't help it, and neither a dodo. The lady is hot now, but we aren't in a brick house. A magnet can't help it. A magnet can't help it. A magnet can't help it.
Circus Guy. Let's go into the name for a bit.
You actually said you like the name.
I love the name. How did you guys come up with that?
Okay. And the backstory behind that is that we were the youngest salaried clowns in the history of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, known as the greatest show on earth.
The greatest show on earth!
And Michael and I were chosen by the president of the circus. He thought that we worked well together, and we learned to be professional performers traveling on the road with the circus. And this was at a time when America was in the Cold War. It was a microcosm of the world and how everybody can get along harmoniously.
It's very rock type, sort of modern rock. They're performing here in Egypt. They're doing a tour, actually. Let me tell you this. In a paper and pen out there. Yes, it's rock music. It's rock music. So they're kicking off their tour starting December 2nd. It's going to be in Fayoum at the Fayoum Cultural Palace from 8 p.m. And then they're going to come here to Cairo on Tuesday, December 7th. It's 8 p.m. concert in the Sawi Cultural Center. That's in Zamalek, of course. And then also a second performance here in Cairo on Wednesday, December 8th, 7 p.m.
We have both been here before. X marks the spot. We make it soar. Ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend. Think of all the pain we tend. Now we keep it to ourselves. Now we
music being what it is and being, communication through vibration, to be in a place that
Whoa!
was first.
Whoa, that was cool.
What?
I'm stealing that. Communication through vibration.
Yeah.
It is like, that the sun will rise every day. The water still runs through these ancient rivers and will continue to run after we're all gone. Me being from Iraq, where the Tigris and the Euphrates have flown for, forever and ever, and then to see my sons go through these different parts of the Middle East, that the awareness of both sides, this 9/11 created a whole different
Isn't it odd?
crisis and a different, dynamic.
I kind of decided that the probably best approach to this whole thing, as far as the abstract, emotional, spiritual, was probably not to engage it too much, because it's one of those things that's going to engage you in a place like that. Any preconceived notion I'd have about what progress I'd make in that area is probably going to be bullshit. So I figured, go, rock and roll.
One thing that distinguished this tour from others was the inclusion of ecotourism sites. As Michael and TH developed the band's environmental message, the State Department team made sure the band visited sites of environmental significance. This lake near Fayoum, the Al Fayoum Lake, is fed by the Nile and helps supply the nearby towns with precious water.
Ted!
Egypt was a great place for the solar-powered stage and for solar energy in general because it's one of the most abundant solar resource regions in the world. So they get more hours of sunlight per year in Egypt than even the sunniest locations in the United States. Plus, most solar panels are made out of silicon, which comes from purified sand, essentially. So there's a great resource of sand available in Egypt also to make solar panels.
Together, and when was the band formed?
10 years ago. Greg Ross on bass and myself as Michael. 10 years we've been playing together, and we're the foundation of the band. Circus Guy is a band project, so we've been lucky enough to work with a lot of great musicians in between. But we're the mainstays, and when we come to the Middle East, we collaborate with my brother. Each time we tour the Middle East, we try to bring our newest Circus Guy band member so they can experience the Arab world and bring some stories back to the U.S. as part of the mission.
Wow. What we were asked to do is bring our own original music and American rock and roll in the Middle East. But it's just a nice bonus when we turn around and do a few Arab pop songs, because that's not our specialty.
I think the dimension, of course, very important that you play Arabic songs that they're familiar with. That means you have gone more than halfway to meet them, even if your accent is not perfect. They don't care, do they?
Someone will jokingly say something that leads towards playing an Arabic tune. And of course, every time that happens, I can lead people through a few different Arabic tunes. I'm like, yeah, we'll throw down. I love learning Arabic tunes. This is awesome.
In Alexandria, Michael and I took a minute to take in the Grand Corniche. Michael, as usual, was mobbed by curious kids.
Who am I? Where did I come from? What do I have to offer? How much of that came from my ancestry?
For me, these tours
relevant.
are like a personal archaeological dig. And the more I dig into my roots and dig into our roots, the more I discover that we're all connected.
After a long afternoon of hotel room rehearsing, the band took the stage at Alexandria's Syed Darwish Theater. Circus Guy performed 2 shows at this renovated opera house, an evening show for adults, and a morning performance for school kids.
جيدة النوع من أجلكم وأهلا وسهلا للمسرح سيد درويش هنا في الإسكندرية العظيمة. أنا يو جيجن مدير المركز الثقافي الأمريكي وإحنا فرحانين جدا جدا بحضوركم هنا اليوم. مرحبا.
When I go to the Middle East is one of the times when I feel good to have some Arab blood in me, even though I was born in the USA.
Though we have the same core values, as we grow up, we stop sharing experiences. We tend to go our separate ways.
What was exciting about this is that we decided to trust each other. Everything that the brothers Culhane do together is off the beaten path.
It seems like they are also following the elements, and the elements are following them. We see the sun, we see the water, we see the desert, we see the sand, we see all these ancient, unchangeable elements.
The band had a chance to relax at an informal dinner gathering hosted by Mushira Hassan, a marine ecology professor at American University in Cairo.
There was laughter in my house. My daddy smoked domestic cigarettes. Thursday nights on the radio, live in concert, live from Cairo, mother of Egypt.
And Mushira is right, it needs people that are leading, that are running before the others and pulling the others or pushing or whatever. Yeah. And then society moves, and that's a good thing.
We're not different from people who go out and want to preach and teach democracy, or preach and teach Catholicism, or preach and teach Islam. We're going out and preach and teach environment, okay? It's absolutely the same thing. I'm not better than any other missionary, just that I have different goals. So in the end of the day, we're all missionaries for our cause, whatever that cause may be.
Rock and roll, okay. I know nothing changes in this world. Every day I'm wasting calls. Sun comes up and Baghdad falls before the eyes of storytelling girls. She was just a poor man's daughter, going down into the Sultan's bed.
stories like the government tells lies. Oh, but no one listens anymore. In the rooms, the women come and go, talking on the mobile phones, and the television talks about the war, and the television talks about the war.
Last stop for Ring 1 was a rural village northeast of Cairo.
This small, tiny village in nowhere was the first to introduce solar energy in the field. It took us a long time, but it really made an establishment, a foundation. We have 72 million crowded in 5% of the country. The other 95%, nobody thinking about. Second, that if I have now educated people, these are really educated to do what in this crowded area. But I need to tailor the education and the training to what to do in the desert.
Small inputs into a chaotic system can have relatively large effects on the outcome.
Ring 2 of Circus Guy's environmental circus took place in Kuwait. This was the band's third visit to the country.
For me, the personal mission on Kuwait, it was a 3-day thing, was just to survive. We had no sleep, just go in, go back. It was like a rush weekend thing. I think most of us, were even like doing something in the U.S. the day before and the day after we got back. So it was like that. It was a blur.
When I play music, when I'm myself, I expand into myself. When we work together, it expands my heart and mind, especially when we challenge ourselves and go to new places and represent.
And it's already on film. He has a friend named Angie, and she's, oh, look at that. And good morning, how are you today? You met Muhammad, I think.
Yeah, oh, yeah. We just heard that we got Steve.
Anyway, I get here, we have actually, we're going to have to see Steve.
After check-in, we gather for practice as TH defines the environmental challenges of 2005.
We've never in history had this frequency of big storms. Sea levels are rising, storms are out of control. This is the major environmental tragedy of the 21st century. The analysis I got from the Natural Resource Defense Council says this is the wake-up call for environmental disaster. It was Love Canal in the 70s, it was Chernobyl in the 80s, it's Hurricane Katrina, and the press doesn't want to touch this because it shows that global warming is the cause of this, which is the Bush refusal to sign the Kyoto Protocol.
Everybody wants to come in.
TH's desire to treat every group of people as a classroom is, to me, sometimes a hard sell. The one thing he does have is he tunes how he's doing it to each situation.
For our favorite band, Circus Guy.
Good morning.
Hello.
Get on slow, don't fall. Slow it down, start to raise you. Get on slow,
It's just, that's what makes it so much fun. It is fun, isn't it? It's like it's what I've dreamed of doing as a kid. When we were together in the circus, it's more fun. It is the greatest show on earth. There's nothing better.
you like to hear one more song?
You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for enjoying Circus Guy and cooperating with your teachers. We will remember this show. We're going to play one more song for you.
I am so impressed. I am so impressed. I'm impressed with the way Circus Guy was able to integrate physics and the earth and the environment and know how to bring everything together with the songs and the music.
Get the classic rock. Give me something from Lovely. Something that's familiar from the album too, but there's lots of songs we neglected. Put in Bad Boy because it's about school. Keep it within this school thing. Good. I'm excited. It's an education. Your opinion there? True to life. Why are you insisting on putting that in there? Why? Because we need a Luna song there. We don't need a Luna song there.
When people come together for a higher goal or a higher purpose, they do transcend, and they have to transcend their differences or work out their differences in order to achieve that goal.
What's your name?
It's me, Taha.
Hello, Taha.
Hello, my love. Right now, it's the Circus Guy.
We're called Circus Guy.
Well, who are you telling Arabic?
I don't speak Arabic.
And that's what I see with the brothers. They find that the things they're together on are more important than the things that divide them, and so they have to slough off the differences.
Another great example of ecotourism that helped clarify some of Kuwait's environmental challenges was a night dive in the Arabian Gulf.
But we started last year with the solar power tour, and the State Department liked the idea that we were using an environmental education message for a couple numbers in our song. This year is the Year of Water. It's the UN Decade of Water. So we're doing a song that we've written on water. We're going to be making a music video in watercolor. We're doing workshops all week at Kuwaiti Science Center tomorrow. We're doing schools. We're doing big concerts. We want to let people know that the marine resources of Kuwait are really something to pay attention to, that there should be environmental awareness, and that this is, as far as the world's concerned, one of the great unexplored assets that the Middle East has.
When we went to Kuwait, of course, that people forget it's on the Gulf. Its lifeblood is not the desert behind it, it's the water that surrounds it.
And one of the things that we want to teach students is that this is the only planet that we know of that has liquid water, at least at the surface. It's a unique planet, and if space aliens came down and had to name all the planets of the solar system, they sure wouldn't call this one Earth. They'd call it the planet Water.
Making a collection.
Lost in the cosmos since birth.
Before the invasion, into the 70s, people here went pearl fishing, and there was a whole industry. People lived off that.
The only real issues they have here is that oil is bigger than ecology is here, so we've already seen some reef damage where the oil has settled. And you know, there's a lot of natural oil here which bubbles up from the ground. You can actually see it while you're diving. The refined oil is a totally different situation, so it kills off parts of the reef, and slicks are a big issue here. They wash the decks of the ships just straight into the ocean within a couple miles of the shore, right on top of the reefs. It doesn't matter.
The next night, we were invited to a diwaniyah, a traditional Kuwaiti social gathering. We talked about the importance of environmental education, but mostly played music together.
Another thing that unites people through this tour, obviously, is music. And when you sort of unite the Kuwaiti musicians and the American musicians, and you and your brother are yourselves hyphenated Americans, as I happen to be also. So it really gives a nice a nice, accurate picture of what American society is about. Everybody in the U.S. is from somewhere else, basically, at some point.
We were going to try and take the best aspects of what, not just American culture, but what Americans themselves could bring to the Middle East. And, you know, rock and roll is a nice way to do that, but it encompasses lots of things. It's not just, you know, getting up on stage and playing for people, but in the context of Circus Guy, it was actually getting out and talking to people and meeting different groups in all aspects of society, from the top to the bottom. And we're playing on the marina at the Marina Crescent Theater, which is just this outdoor pavilion. And we're playing on a Thursday night, which is the beginning of the Kuwaiti weekend. People are just going to be strolling by in droves. People are starting to come out about this time of night, having their Coke and Pepsi and coffee, get caffeined up, and then maybe a meal a little later, and then they'll hear a rock band and say, hey, and they'll gather around. Suleiman and his crew from coaxial Kuwait, with their excellent equipment that they can really use it out here. He's like ready to let the smoke go, and the lights, woo, and all this stuff. And Layla's like, I hope he doesn't go crazy with the smoke and lights because we didn't really get a permit for this. And if it attracts too much attention, they'll be like, wait, why are these guys singing? You need a permit to sing.
The amount of production that went into that final show that we're talking about was immense. A large stage, big lighting system, and we're really excited about playing this show. It's our final night in Kuwait.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
شباب هدوء بس شوي لو سمحتوا هدوء لو ده شباب.
We'd like to welcome you to the show. We have our band Circus Guy. They are here on tour to promote studying in the US.
نرحب فيكم جميعا بجولة لفرقة موسيقية من الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية لتشجيع الدراسة في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية.
A particular frustration for the band was Kuwait's more strict expression of Islamic rule. To discourage dancing, the crowd was actually kept away from the stage by a line of police.
Mona's saying, don't listen to all this stuff they're saying about, don't dance, don't sing. I know these are the local regulations, but, and she's from here, saying, this is what rock and roll has always been about. She was like, that's why we bring you guys here, to rock the boat. You don't have rock and roll without rocking the boat. Nothing has changed, and it doesn't matter where you are. They're always telling you to sit down and behave, and yet you're playing music that is supposed to get you to shake around.
When we pretend or suffer under the illusion that we are different brands of human, when there is only one human race, I think we find excuses to deny each other resources that we all need. That's what the environment is to a human.
Jamming on stage with Fauci, Badr, and Khalid, trading off, having the whole band sort of make stuff up. I like the unrehearsed stuff best.
It was a wonderful couple of days. It was very moving how you guys sort of connected the Western sort of music and the Arabic music. It was really wonderful. Very effective, very moving, I think, for the crowd, for myself personally, and for everybody else involved.
Nice. This is our dream, to build bridges. What's that? Tawasul, that's it, Tawasul.
The rest of the world really knows a lot about us because of television and movies. But we are less educated about the rest of the world as the world is about us. That's for sure.
I call this, all of it is a intercultural dialogue. That's what you are achieving.
They meet Americans, they learn about America firsthand, they come back, they tell their friends and family about America. At the same time, they also teach Americans about Kuwaitis, about Arabs, about Muslims, about this part of the world, which is a very important second part of the exchange philosophy.
That's one of our missions, is to then bring back what we learn and what we see and then share it with people that we meet here in the United States.
My expectations were that it would evolve exactly as it's evolving. I'm very pleased. It's moving into being the three-ring circus that we spoke about.
It was you who put us on number 4 on the charts in the Virgin Megastore Kuwait. Thank you very much. Shukran jazilan. We're getting a little late.
The third ring of Circus Guy's environmental circus took place in Morocco, a country with deserts, forests, beaches, rivers, and mountains. Morocco was a great proving ground for climate awareness and environmental education. After the usual reunions and greetings were done, the band tried once again to sneak in a little hotel room rehearsal.
Really good and tight so that it has resonance, establish the resonance between the neck and the body. This thing's brilliant. I went through security mistakenly at Paris airport with this in my pocket. They said, "C'est qui ce laserman?" And I thought they were saying, "Who's Laserman?" I kind of laughed because I work with lasers, so it wasn't too strange to hear that question. But they found a knife in my bag going through security, and when you go through security with the knife, they're not too happy with it. So I had to go back to the check-in, and the man said I could either pay to have this checked in, or he would be willing to send it to me if I trusted him. So I said, "Man, I trust you. Here's €5, and here's my laser man." I received this at home 2 days before leaving.
Let's all play something. Just tell them it's Ramadan.
Keep the stage going as well. Fast and the rain
Words or anything. Nous arrêtons. C'est fini.
Come on, come on, come on.
The first event in Morocco was a performance at a Peace Corps-run English language learning camp for Moroccan youth.
Come on, everybody must still rock with you. Who will rock with you? Ready to rock. Ready to rock. Oh yeah, ready to rock. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready or not? Would you like to do a number with me? Would you like to...
The concert was attended by then U.S. Ambassador to Morocco, Thomas Riley, and his wife.
this inside the room. We're going to do an environmental science music workshop where we're going to show how we deal with renewable energy issues and water issues, showing how we can make science instruction and English instruction rockin' good fun.
Circus Guy really is much more than I expected in terms of quality of musicianship and also the meta message, if you will, of reaching out beyond the music to go into people's hearts, into people's minds, and talk about things like saving the planet, environmentalism, working together.
The electricity from the sun is for pumping the water, and it can also pump it through a filter to purify the water. If the water is dirty, that just means you need a pump, and the pump will push the water through a filter, catch all the dirt, and the water that comes out is clean. This is called a mahakim al-battery, a charge controller, but it's only 4 items. You need the panel, 1, the charge controller, mahakim al-kahraba, 2, the battery, 3, and the muhawil, the inverter. Khalas, you're done. You can go in the desert, you can go on the moon, wherever you want to go.
After all, Morocco, what does Morocco export? Being in Africa where water is scarce, Morocco exports water.
To the rest of Africa?
No, to Europe.
To Europe?
How? In forms of tomatoes. And now roses. You know that Morocco now is the second country exporter of roses after Holland.
They take a lot of water, don't they?
Yes, so that's why we export water.
So you have fresh water?
Yes, a lot of fresh water. Yeah.
Where does it come from?
Well, it comes from rain, from mountains.
So you get rain?
Yeah, a lot of rain and snow. Wow. As well.
Cultural Affairs Officer Mohammed X. Gudira explained why he chose to invite Circus Guy to Morocco.
I've heard about Circus Guy from other posts. I have read some evaluation reports. I was really impressed by, I think, a report from Bahrain.
Syria, maybe.
From Bahrain, I think, or Syria. Syria. And it was very good. I liked that component of the Arab American component. That was the first thing that attracted me, and that's why I thought it would be a great thing, like, to bring you to Morocco. And I was sure that you've never been to Morocco because,
Right.
yeah, I had this impression. Yeah, I was not really sure, but I had this impression.
Springtime and all the world is mine. Springtime and all the world is mine. Springtime is making another year. Springtime and love is by design. Kelly green buds and the rain floods. Streets are ankle deep, petals and books to keep and to keep reading.
It's Lebanon.
What's Lebanon?
It's yogurt drink. Wonderful fermented milk, because milk doesn't, in the traditional times there were no refrigeration because they didn't have solar panels to provide the electricity, so you would ferment it using natural processes to turn it into something that would last in the desert. I invite you to try
Sour,
it.
it's called sour milk.
I invite you. We can get a reaction of your first Lebanon. Here we are. Good, huh?
Chocolate.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just not right in my zone. Alan, you want to try this?
So it's good.
How would I do with my phone? This we like. This we like? Sure.
And we're here at this incredible festival in Morocco doing our water song tonight. And I'm sitting by a sewer backstage where we can smell the smell of exactly what we sing against, the idea of putting waste and filth into the water and using water as a carrier for our pollution. In fact, filth must be composted and water fit to drink. This barbaric practice that we do all over the world of using clean, fresh water as a medium for transporting our filth to the ocean and then creating these pollution problems can be completely avoided.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Right now we'd like to do a song about this stuff right here. It's called My Oh My. And it's about how important water is in our lives and how much we must conserve it. It's an environmental science song. And we love Morocco, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the most beautiful countries you've ever been to. You've got beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful landscape, and the best water we've ever seen. Wonderful to swim in, wonderful to drink. So we'll sing tonight. There are 140 billion cubic meters of fresh water on this earth, but only 41 million of them are fresh enough and clean enough for us to drink and use. We must protect this precious heritage that Allah gave us. We must recycle it and purify it, and make it good to drink and use again. We are the stewards of the earth and the water. And now,
there's lots of talk about disasters that are coming down the pike. We're told we'll soon run out of water and we'll one day have to fight. Live and let die. But water's not like oil, it never disappears. It's so abundant, there's no need for all these fears. Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Purifying water, friends, is easier than you think. Making new fresh water is as simple as can be. Distillation and osmosis and some fun technology, you'll see. Because we're living on a water planet, blue and green on top of granite. My, you may call this planet Earth, but water is our place of birth. A hyper sea of living liquid life. We're alive. Ashemai. 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 Ashemai.
July of 2006.
July 2006, my ancestor lands are on fire again.
But TH, they did leave the PowerPoint on. Oh, no, they shutting it down.
Nador is the first of the two shows in Morocco we went farthest out of our way to potentially play, and it's the only show that actually got completely canceled.
We knew going out that these were troubled times. There was a war going on in Lebanon. We were prepared that anything might happen. We didn't know that when we traveled an entire day to this remote area and pulled into the area where the crowd was gathered and the stage was set up, that out of sympathy and solidarity, it would be insensitive to play that concert.
Part of what we do is adapting and rising to the occasion, and sometimes it means rising to no occasion.
What is the plan B, and how do you feel we can fit into the plan B?
Funny you should ask that.
You got one there?
We have a plan B, as a matter of fact. Actually, thanks to Abdul Karim, who has wonderful connections here. You're going to meet with another journalist who's local, and the gentleman who is also a journalist who managed to arrange all of these contacts with journalists for lunch. Talk about environmentalism through music, and also, of course, the connections that you can make between Morocco and the United States on environmental issues. At the same time, the rest of us are going to be going to Oujda, where we will be having the workshops with the music students there. And we'll all meet up in Saidia, where, inshallah, there will be a performance tomorrow night. We all can hear
Really?
Circus Guy, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Waters from January to August. July. In July, there is no water. The people save water in, Special devices. So they need these beans to pump him with water to the fields, for instance.
Right. This is, you put a hand drill,
yeah,
which can be a battery-powered drill, or it can plug in the wall, or it can be a... And this is a water pump that will pump from 3 to 4 meters down, and then will pump 10 meters up, just using a hand drill, just goes on the drill. Things you can carry in your pocket that a villager might desperately need to get water out of a well. But nobody's going into the communities and saying, this. I mean, that.
If you go to one person, one farmer, you would go to just to one and tell him, okay, we have another instrument, let's try it.
Yeah.
And from time, he will believe in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the belief.
So the belief, this is the believing, therefore be share of experience with the others. And they will be interested as well, and they will depend.
Morocco being located in North Africa, and Africa does means there is a scarcity of water. Morocco has been doing very well in terms of water preservation, and we passed a river called Bouregreg, the father of waters. The enemy number one of water is tourism, because when you say tourism, it means hospitality management, it means swimming pools, it means washing towels every now and then, it means a lot of water to clean up.
People need to know that when we go out to the Middle East, we're not bringing an environmental message to a place where people don't know about environmental issues.
Good point.
We're coming out to a place where they're suffering environmental challenges that we can only dream in our nightmares about. I mean, people facing real water issues, real garbage issues, real air quality issues. You name the tragedy in developing countries, they're facing it. So it's not like we're going out and preaching to people who don't know about environmental challenges. They're acutely aware of it. And they want the opportunity to break bread with us, sing songs, and then having gotten to know us, then to sit down and start talking serious talk about solutions.
When you tell people at home we're going to Morocco, they say, are you going to Fez, you're going to Marrakesh? No, we're going off the beaten track.
Exactly.
When they suggested some long treks and some out-of-the-way festivals, we said, yeah, that's what Circus Guy does in the Middle East. We're the ones for the job. We take turns getting the energy to pull something out of the air, out of thin air.
We traveled a long way to a very remote part of Morocco.
We show up, after a long drive for a show that is supposed to be a water festival, and it's a stage alongside a beach, but they tell us they have no amplifiers for guitars and no drum set.
But it did have marching bands and clowns and acrobats. So I guess they thought Circus Guy was a circus show.
We have a sound check where we're the only people who actually turned out to set up any equipment.
We're checking for sound and we don't find any.
Yeah, hang on. Yes, we have sound.
Okay,
thank you.
So we had to deal with this anxiety of how do we get the equipment that we need to put on the rock show.
I can hear it buzz.
Yeah, 50 hertz.
Well, it does if you stand close to it. If you stand far away, it doesn't hurt at all.
Donut?
Oh, it hurts.
What? Hurts, don't it?
The sound guys are actually making the sound not work. They spend hours making it worse for themselves. It just looked like a non-event. But meanwhile, we're doing sing-alongs and workshops and interactions with whatever happens around us, whoever happens around us.
Right there when all the people are there with expectations, and because the show must go on, and we're used to sending the clowns, we pull out our bag of tricks and start dialoguing with the audience about what the theme of the event was, which is water and the environment. And so Out come the regenerative unitary fuel cell that makes pure water out of contaminated water while making electricity using solar energy. And you have to explain that, and that makes for a bit. And then there's all the foldable solar panels, and there's the message about how we can work together with different countries to make a better environment. And people are hungry to hear that message when you're doing it with great enthusiasm, so they stick around, and we're able to keep them entertained until the equipment arrives.
At one point, though, a marching band brought a huge crowd to the beach and said, okay, here's American rock and roll band Circus Guy. And then we are standing there with no equipment and no ability to play. They all look at us with beautiful smiles. We're ready to rock. And the organizer says, get out of here. They're not ready. They will not rock. Go home. And marches them all out again. And that's a sinking feeling. Somehow, though, we did later put on a show and pull people just from passers-by into an equally substantial crowd. But what an up and down roller coaster day.
The problem is, and this is part of our mission, is that people are not trained scientifically, so they only do what they've been taught. And if it doesn't work the way they were taught, they freak and they don't know what to do.
The piece of the dissonance that we bring is that they can see that we're all different. You know, we're all come from different backgrounds. We have different points of view. We have our arguments. We have our differences of this and that. But on stage, and personally as friends, we bring it all together.
A rock and roll band doesn't play that well when it doesn't have amplifiers and drums. The human race doesn't play very well when it doesn't have our environment to support it, to play on.
Shukran jazilan, merci beaucoup, beaucoup, beaucoup. Dankeschön, gracias, arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much. Hebkum, we love you. Yamagrab.
Because that's the whole essence of the Circus Guy Goodwill Tours. It's not just us performing at people, it's really involving the audience. And when you can celebrate their commitment to goodwill, to peace, to development, then you've used the stage as its proper way.
Merci, merci. Nahmi il-ma. Nahmi il-ma. Muhim jiddan. Circus Guy, thank you. See you next time.
Troupe musicale, la superbe troupe musicale qui nous vient des États-Unis, Circus Guy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very good night for everybody. See you tomorrow morning. Good night and thank you, Circus Guy in Saidia Beach, Morocco. Goodbye and good night, everybody.
Is that from your head? Yeah, well, I just poured. Oh, okay. Wow, that was like a real rock show.